Tom Shanke at the table. Please proceed, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Tom Shanke. I will apologize up front for my voice. I am suffering from a cold, and hopefully I won't lose my voice through my testimony. Thank you for having me here today. This is a very exciting time in our community, and specifically around K-12 education. AB 394 represents one of the most important reforms that the Nevada legislature, the school district, and the State Board of Education have ever embarked upon. And that's all thanks to the leadership of this body and your colleagues in the state legislature. It is critically important that we, as a state, get a major policy change like AB 394 right. That's why we all need to work together excuse me, to ensure that this law is implemented with equity and fidelity. In order to do that, we need a group of people who are implementers, who can bring skill sets to the table to change what needs to be changed and manage the change effectively. I've had the great opportunity to work with Glenn Christensen for the past 25 years. In a previous life, for both of us at Station Casinos, and most recently as the chairman and now chair emeritus of the Las Vegas Global Economic Alliance. What Glenn neglected to tell you this morning about, or this earlier today about his wife, is that she's also a school teacher. In working together, Glenn and our board and my team, we collectively fundamentally changed the course of economic development for all of Southern Nevada. In that change, we embraced the idea that education and economic development were inextricably linked, and that we couldn't have an effective economic development effort without a high-quality K-12 and higher education system. So, as we changed the direction of economic development in Southern Nevada, we started working very closely with the school district. Glenn, Brent Husson, Sylvia Lazos, Dr. Beverly Mathis, Poonam Mather, Vicki Courtney, and many other people started to work together. Key word there is work together to see how they could help the Clark County School District. We called that effort the LVGEA Education Council. Our job there, excuse me, our job there was not to tell teachers what to do, not to turn our schools into businesses, but rather to see where we could all help as a community, how we could partner together in education. As Glenn mentioned, and you may recall, it was the Las Vegas Global Economic Alliance was the first business organization in the state to step up and support the K-12 funding proposal that you all passed in 2015. I have been in this community for nearly 3 decades, and I've seen time and time and time and time again where educators have asked for help from the business community, and the business community was not there. Well, in the past couple of years, the business community has been there, and is largely thanks to Glenn Christensen. Now let's fast forward to today and the matter that is before us. You all developed and unanimously passed AB 394 regulations. The State Board of Education unanimously approved them, and the Legislative Commission unanimously ratified them. They prescribe that the Clark County School District and the state do many things in a very fast timeline. Those things include: 1, recruiting, hiring, and appointing new school associate superintendents. 2, setting up a new administrative structure based upon the decentralized model. 3, implementing the budgeting and administrative mechanisms necessary to ensure that 357 school precincts have the data and budgeting authority they need to comply with the regulations. 4, that means that CCSD has to figure out in a very short order how to reallocate 80% of their operating budget to local school precincts and what actual budgeting authority those local school precincts will have. 5, CCSD and the Nevada Department of Education also need to figure out how they are going to address the transition to the weighted funding formula under AB 394 regulations, because 5, The budgets at each local school precinct need to be determined by the number of kids at the school and the type of education that those kids need to achieve. 6, CCSD also needs to set up a customer service model for their central services department. This is a fundamental realignment that is essential to the success of the decentralized school governance model you all have developed. And there are many, many, many more things that need to be done over the next 30, 90, and 180 days, and over the next year to get these regulations implemented. Educators across the state are working hard to ensure that all of our children achieve their highest potential. And many of the things prescribed in the AB 394 regulation are directly related to the delivery of education at the local school level. But many of the changes prescribed in AB 394 regulations are changes to business practices and organizational structures. Personally, I think it's inappropriate for business people to tell teachers how he or she should teach a class, or a school nurse how he or she should administer therapy. But I do think it is appropriate for business people to help develop budgeting and purchasing systems which provide more fiscal accountability, responsibility, and transparency. I think it is appropriate for us to draw on the resources of the business community to help set up a customer service system for the district's central services department to ensure that our schools get high-quality services delivered to them in a timely fashion. That's what we're talking about here in this proposal. The proposal itself is split up into 3 phases. Phase 1 is the information gathering phase and the initial setup of AB 394 Community Implementation Council. That will take us about 60 days. It'll wrap up around the beginning of the holidays. We will do an initial analysis and assessment of all of the systems and processes around the 394 implementation. Phase 2 will begin around the holidays and cover the first part of the deployment of AB 394 transition. This is where those budgeting systems and organizational systems will need to be developed. It is also the start of the transition from a central administration model to a customer service-based central services department. Throughout this phase, we'll need to communicate effectively and to continue to earn the trust of all of the stakeholders. This phase will end just as the 2017 legislature is beginning, so we'll need to effectively communicate to all of you what has happened and what still needs to be done and keep us in a successful transition. And phase 3 will be what we call the transition management phase. During this phase, we'll employ the strategies laid out in the strategic plan around the transition. We'll measure outcomes. We'll deploy more systems and work to ensure that any changes needed will be done transparently, with equity and with fidelity to the regulations. Our work will conclude 1 year from now, when CCSD will be developing the budget books for precincts in 2018-19 school year, and 85% of the CCSD operating funds will be required to be allocated to local schools. Our goal is to lay out a strong foundation for a long-term, sustainable, and successful implementation of the 394 regulations. This is a limited appointment. Our work will primarily be around the transition of administrative and business functions, and you'll know we're doing our work because we'll measure it every step of the way. The budget we've developed for this program is inclusive of all the costs we currently anticipate throughout the year. The costs include transition management and outreach services, strategic plan development, project management, communications, both internal and external services, and all of the services related to community outreach. The employment, the second phase of, or the second part of this is the employment of 1 or more education policy consultants that will be added to the team. Thirdly, in the event that there is a need for financial consultants to help us with this overall effort, we will reach out to those individuals as well. And finally, the administrative items related to the Community Implementation Council itself. As a company, TSC Squared Group will commit all of the necessary resources it needs to this effort. and we'll put the necessary team in place to get this work done on time, on budget, and in a very timely manner. There is a lot of work ahead, and that work needs to be done for the children of this community. When, not if, when we are successful, we will transform the way K through 12 is delivered in this community. Clark County will be known for something besides gaming and tourism. We'll be known for transforming our school system into something that our state, our children, our families, our teachers, our community, and our country can be proud of. Ms. Lazos was correct. It can get worse, but I think it can get better. This should not be political, nor should it be personal. It should be about what is best for the children of our community. That's why I'm here. That's why Glenn is here. That's why Pat's here. That's why we're all here. That's why you all undertook this amazing piece of legislation and regulation. You see, it's about the kids and the environment in which they learn. It's the environment in which teachers teach. And it's about setting up processes and procedures that allow these professionals to do their job. Our kids will be sitting in our chairs and your chairs one day. If we implement this policy correctly, those future senators and assemblymen and women can be talking about how we keep the best schools in the nation, not talking about how we can fix the poorest performing schools in the nation. I believe we can do this. The business community, in conjunction with the education community, working together, stepping up, I think this can be done. In fact, I know it can be done. We just need the chance to step up and lead and make sure that this is done on time, on budget, for the future of our community and our state. Thank you.